Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Gridiron podcast. It's episode 12. If you guys didn't catch the live stream this past Sunday, you guys missed a lot. We're going to be talking about this past week and the trade deadline and predicting next week's matchups. I'm Nick.
As always, I'm Michael.
And let's get into it. All right, to start off, let's talk about the trade deadline. Obviously, the trade deadline, this is being recorded on Wednesday the 6th. The trade deadline ended yesterday. And we have some pretty interesting trades. So the first trade that kind of happened was Roy Robertson Harris from the Seahawks going to the Jags in replacement of a 2026 sixth round pick. I
mean, yeah, it's just some of these trades aren't like the big headline trades. I mean, some of them are just like rotation pieces for some teams, and I think this was just a piece that the Seahawks are trying to pick up for their defense. A seventh round pick, I think it's a fair trade for the Seahawks. I think that this is just another rotation piece.
Yeah, and then the Jets received Devontae Adams for a 2025 conditional third round pick. This has not panned out for the Jets as they have been losing back-to-back games. I think the chemistry between Adams and Rodgers still is going to take a little bit of time, but for the Raiders, I mean, Adams wanted it out of there. So,
yeah, it was pretty evident that the Raiders were going to get rid of Devontae Adams, but it was a matter of where was he going to go. He did have a big game against the Texans, which is nice to see already. So I think I actually disagree. I think that Rodgers and Adams are going to be linking up here pretty soon. Does that mean the Jets will be, turning the ship around completely? Maybe not. But Adams was a great piece for the Jets to pick up, especially, which we'll talk about later, this past weekend, or not weekend, week in Thursday Night Football. They got a very big win against the Texans. So it's good to see Adams play well and Rodgers play well. So I think good trade for the Jets. Raiders, it's blowing up. So, yeah.
Yeah, the next one, the Bills received Amari Cooper and a 2025 sixth round pick for a 2025 third round pick and a 2026 seventh round pick. I mean, it's been looking good for Amari Cooper and the Bills.
Yeah.
Him and Josh Allen have been connecting pretty well. And I think the Browns getting draft picks is huge because kind of right now they're in a situation where they could lose out, right? They could easily lose out. And getting that draft capital is going to be huge.
Yeah, I think that this was a trade that the Bills were going to do something for a receiver, and they got one of their guys in Amari Cooper. I think for a pretty good value. A 2025, you said third and seventh round pick, I believe, to Cleveland.
2025 third and 2026 seventh.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty good value. For Amari Cooper especially, you have to see like what his contract is like, and if he's just a rental or is he going to be extended. I guess we'll see on that note, but I think it's a good piece to have for the season, especially for the Bills trying to contend.
Yeah, the next one is the Vikings receiving Cam Akers in a 2026 conditional seventh round, and the Texans receiving a 2026 conditional sixth round. Obviously, this trade kind of happened with Aaron Jones going down. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, he is back, so we're not seeing Cam Akers as much. I think they kind of pulled the trigger a little too much, in my opinion. We really didn't know the extent of Aaron Jones's injury at the time. So to pull the trigger on trading for a running back, obviously Cam Akers playing for Minnesota last year, I do think that they did pull the trigger a little too quickly.
Yeah. I think, well, Minnesota obviously graded Aaron Jones's injury, as you said, like pretty severe. So that's why they did pull the trigger and they did get Cam Akers back. It is unfortunate that, he's not able to really play all that much right now because you have Ty Chandler in the backfield too. Um, for the Texans, I mean, I don't really think this affects you in any sort of way. I think that, they're obviously fine with Joe Mixon. They have a nice running game. So for that matter, I don't really think either side, it favored one team or the other. I just think it was, yeah, as you said, the Vikings pulled the trigger. They needed a running back at the time. They tried to get one. So,
Yeah, the next one is the Chiefs getting DeAndre Hopkins and the Titans getting a 2025 conditional fifth round. Um,
I mean, I'll just say this right away. Is that the best the Titans can do? I understand D Hop's age and his contract situation, and he definitely wasn't going to be a Tennessee Titan next year. But I mean, is a 2025 fifth round pick the best you could do? Because a team like Pittsburgh was desperate for a receiver. Um, I mean, there's just so many other teams out there who could have gotten a receiver. But
right.
a 2025 fifth round pick, is a fifth round pick in 2025 going to change the Tennessee Titans? I mean, the Chiefs are trying to do something back to back to back, and you're just helping them. I mean, obviously, D Hop had a huge game this past weekend. Um, I don't know why these teams continuously help the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think they get a phone call from the NFL office saying, "Hey, make this trade so we can have a storyline." So, I mean, and like you said, is that the best the Titans can do? Because the Titans are in a huge situation where their offense is horrible. Their defense has been pretty solid over the past couple games, minus the Lions game. But I mean, just getting a draft pick out of it and the draft pick that they got, I I don't see it being good for the Titans, and they just help the Chiefs a lot more.
Yeah, which is crazy.
The next one is the Seahawks getting Ernest Jones, and the Titans getting Jerome Baker and a 2025 fourth round pick. Now, this trade for the Titans is a little bit better.
I'll let you explain that.
So, obviously, you're gaining a linebacker in Jerome Baker. Yes, he's not like the top tier of linebackers, but he's solid. And then you also get a fourth round pick, and you're only giving away one player in another linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liked Ernest Jones. He's been on the Rams before. I know he went to a team before that. Um, but he's kind of a nice, solid piece. I think yet again, the Seahawks are building up this defense, which I really like. Um, yeah, I mean, I like this trade. I like Ernest Jones. I think if Seattle can really put it together in offense, I think this team's a threat. I mean, like you said, they're building up this defense. They're trading for pieces. Just need to put it together now. So
Yeah. And then another trade that kind of severely helped the Chiefs. The Chiefs received Joshua Uche, and
yeah, I mean, at best,
um,
the Chiefs, at best, I mean, this guy is not really anything special. He's just a rotation guy at best, probably. I mean, he he's definitely not a starter. I mean, Uche's a nice piece, but he's just going to be a rotation guy. And yet again, to the Patriots, why are you trading a piece to the Chiefs, who yet again are trying to go back to back to back to back, which is something you didn't do with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. So why are you trying to help these guys out? Is that the best you can do? I don't know, and I don't understand it.
I don't even think it's even close to the best that they could have done. Just getting a draft pick, kind of like the situation with D Hop. You're just handing these guys players that are good rotational players, good starters, and you're getting a projection, essentially.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what pick you're going to be in the 6th round. You don't know how whoever you pick is going to turn out, especially in the 6th round. So it's a bad move for the Patriots. But moving on to the next one, the Ravens getting Deontay Johnson and a 2025 6th round pick. The Panthers receiving a 2025 5th round pick. I think this is a great trade. I know you and I talked about it. I think the Ravens are solidifying that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. So I think this is a great addition to the Ravens. They've had to rely heavily on the run game this year with Derrick Henry, with Lamar Jackson. And I think this just solidifies their wide receiver room. And then the Panthers, I think they're just tanking at this point. They obviously pulling out the win against New Orleans this week, but I think they're still tanking.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't really have anything more to add to that. I just think it's a good trade for the Ravens. They got that receiver that they needed. And on top of Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, now they have like a solid 1, 2, and 3. So hopefully that'll push them over the edge for the playoffs when it comes time. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, the next one is the Vikings receiving Cam Robinson and a 2026 conditional 7th round pick, and the Jaguars receiving 2026 conditional 5th round pick. I think building that offensive line for the Vikings is huge to protect Sam Darnold. And however long the Vikings have Robinson under contract, potentially protecting J.J. McCarthy when it comes down to next season. So I think this is a great trade for the Vikings. And then the Jaguars, they're kind of lower of the pack, middle of the pack. So I think getting a draft pick out of it, I think I would have liked if they received maybe an O lineman as well, instead of just trading away an old lineman, or even like per se like a linebacker. I would have liked them to receive, but getting a draft pick and trying to build on the future of your team is huge. But like I said, it's just a projection for the Jaguars. I think they're another team that is close to just tanking the season. So who knows how this is going to shape up. So
Yeah, no, I like the trade for the Vikings. But if Cam Robinson can stay healthy, that's also another thing, because I know he's dealing with a couple of injuries right now. But I do like the trade. I do like the trade, building up that offensive line, trying to protect Sam Darnold, and as you said, J.J. McCarthy in the future. I think Cam Robinson's a solid piece for them, and I do like the trade for them.
yeah, the next one is the Arizona Cardinals getting Baron Browning and the Broncos receiving a 2025 6th round pick. I do like this trade for both sides, and I'll say why. The Cardinals have been struggling to get pressure on quarterbacks all season. So I think adding Baron Browning is a huge piece to their defensive line. And then the Broncos, they're starting to build a young roster that can compete for the future. So getting a conditional fifth round pick, not just a straight up fifth round pick, is huge because that could land probably in the fourth round. It could land in the sixth round, or it can just stay in the fifth round. So who really knows what that's going to end up entailing? But I do like this trade also for the Broncos because they are working on building for the future.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what Browning does. I don't really know too much about him. I saw his stat line, and it's like a rotation guy. I don't think
Yeah.
he's gonna be a starter by any means, but we'll see what he can do in Arizona. And yeah, as you said, the Broncos, they're building up for the future, which I like, and they're also not too bad right now. So, I mean, we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, the next one is the big one that pretty much everyone has been talking about. The Lions receiving Zadarius Smith and a 2026 seventh round pick, and the Browns selecting 2025 fifth round pick and a 2026 sixth round pick. Obviously, with the loss of Aiden Hutchinson, they needed an edge rusher. The pressure that has been getting to the quarterback over the past 4 games since Aiden Hutchinson went out has been strictly from Jack Campbell, Ali McNeil, and Alex Anzalone. And even Muhammad getting to making Jordan Love run out of the pocket and obviously throwing that pick six to Kirby Joseph. So getting an edge rusher like Zadarius Smith, who currently has 12 TFLs and 5.5 sacks on the year, is insane for the Lions. And then potentially they are saying if the Lions make it to the Super Bowl, having both Zadarius Smith and Aiden Hutchinson in the lineup is going to be crazy for the Lions. And Zadarius Smith is planning on staying on the Lions for the next couple of years. His main goal is to verse Green Bay twice, verse Minnesota twice, both of them being his former teams, and beating up on them. So we'll have to see. I do like this trade. And Zadarius Smith will be able to play in Houston this week. So I'm super excited to see CJ Stroud get under pressure a lot from Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, no, it's an absolutely great move for the Lions. Now's the time to win. They're in win mode. I don't know how you can say they're not the best team in the NFC. Yeah,
Maybe
I just think
NFL. Maybe
it's
NFL.
it's a great move. I mean, he's a great player still. Yeah, I like this move for the Lions. It's a huge move for them. So we'll see what he does for the Lions going forward. And yeah, great trade for them.
The next one is the Bengals receiving Khalil Herbert and the Bears selecting or getting a 2025 seventh round pick. I like this trade. Khalil Herbert wasn't really playing that much for the Browns. Uh, and the Bengals severely needed a running back.
Yeah.
They've been strictly relying on the pass game, and they haven't been able to get that run game going. Now, I don't know too much about Khalil Herbert. I don't know if his stats are even considered like a rotational player. I know
No.
he hasn't played really at all for the Bears this season. And then the Bears getting a seventh round pick for this upcoming draft could be big because um, they have that wide receiver room. They really need to start building on that O line because the O line has been a pain point for the Bears all season. We've been talking about it pretty much every single episode when we talk about the Bears, the O line, the O line, the O line. And possibly building on the defense a little bit because the defense has been able to keep you in games. So maybe building towards the future on the defense. And we'll have to see if Matt Eberflus stays on the team, which I highly doubt he does, what they decide to do in the draft.
Yeah, no, it's about time Khalil Herbert got traded. I was waiting for this one. I knew he was gonna get traded. As he tweeted out, "Thank God he gets to play now finally." So yeah, no, I'm excited to see what he does over at Cincinnati. But Yeah, the guy was a solid starter for the Bears a couple years ago, and then he just slowly faded behind Roshan Johnson, and obviously the signing of DeAndre Swift really hurt him. So, kind of sucks for him, but that's just what happens. You get pushed out of the league if you're not good in certain situations, and Roshan seems to be a good back that can catch the ball and block. So, for that
And
reason, Herbert
DeAndre
just
Swift is
got out.
you just like that too. I mean, it's a business.
Yeah,
So uh,
yeah,
you win
right.
some, you lose some.
Yeah, exactly.
The next one, which I kind of was surprised that this team even made a move based on how their offseason went. The Dallas Cowboys getting Jonathan Mingo and a 2025 seventh round pick, and the Panthers getting a 2025 fourth round pick. I don't think anything can save the Dallas Cowboys.
The reason why I laugh is just because, like, okay, Jerry Jones came out and said something about like he wants to get a college player, receiver. He likes Jonathan Mingo. Now he has the time to get him. Jonathan Mingo has barely played on the Panthers. He's not good. I mean, there's nothing there for him. He hasn't caught a touchdown yet. I think he has like 55 catches for like 500 yards or something.
I think he
A
has less
fourth
than 500 yards.
a 4th round pick is insane. This guy hasn't done anything to, like, earn that. I love that from the Cowboys, but hey, if it works out, it works out. I'd love to see it, but hey, I don't see it.
I'll mention this. I don't see it working out. Obviously, Dak Prescott being placed on IR.
Yeah,
So who and then potentially who knows what's going on with CD Lamb with his shoulder injury. People are saying that he could miss a week or two. Some people saying he could be back this week. Some people saying he's going on IR as well. So we'll have to see what happens with CD Lamb.
yeah,
Jonathan Mingo, though, I mean, he barely, like you said, he barely played for the Panthers. So I'm proud of the Dallas Cowboys for at least making a move because I was sitting here like Jerry Jones said he's going all in. Does he do anything at the trade deadline? And I was sitting here, I was like, I don't think he's going to do anything. And then yesterday morning, it gets announced that they traded for Jonathan Mingo. So
yeah, we'll see.
we'll have to see.
Yeah,
But this trade I really like. The Washington Commanders getting Marshawn Lattimore and a 2025 fifth round pick, and the Saints getting a 2025 third round pick, fourth round pick, and sixth round pick.
yeah. I said I like the move for the Commanders. They're absolutely beefing up the secondary. This is a move that they, I think are now saying that, hey, they might be able to make a splash. And, you know, let's just say hypothetically, had they lost to the Bears, I don't know about this past week, but if they're not sitting where they're sitting right now, would they make this move? And that's a good question to ask. But now you have a rookie QB, and it's like, hey, we might be able to really make a splash. So I do like this move for them, beefing up that secondary, because as I've been saying, their secondary is not that good. But Marshawn Lattimore is a great piece to have. And this is a fair trade for the Saints, too. I mean, the draft picks, I think it's a fair trade.
Yeah, and the Saints being losers of
5 in a row,
seven, 5 in a
7 in a row.
row,
No, 7 in a
whatever,
row.
7
Yeah,
in a row.
yeah,
I think getting those draft picks is huge, especially getting a third, fourth, and a sixth round pick in this next draft. Plus, on top of that, having your own draft picks too, I think is huge for the Saints. And then obviously, like we said, Marshawn Lattimore going to the Commanders, them beefing up that secondary because the offense has been doing its thing. Jay Daniels has been doing his thing. But that defense, especially that secondary, has been kind of lacking a little bit. So, and there was talks about potentially Marshawn Lattimore going to Detroit. Uh, but I'm glad that he's going to the Commanders and not really Detroit because I like the group that Detroit has. And I think Commanders could really use his expertise a lot more than the Lions could.
yeah.
The next one is the Steelers getting Mike Williams and the Jets getting a 2025 fifth round pick. I think this is good. I feel like the Steelers needed to kind of build on their wide receiver room. Obviously, they had George Pickens, but I think they definitely needed to start building on that wide receiver room. And I think Mike Williams solidifies that wide receiver 2, maybe even a wide receiver 3, depending on how they do their depth chart. But I think this is huge for the Steelers as a team that is competing in the AFC. Um, and I think it's just going to go up from here for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I think that if they do continue to start Russell Wilson, he's kind of a jump ball guy. So you have Mike Williams now, who's a jump ball guy. So we'll see how they use Mike Williams. I do think it's a good trade for the Steelers as they needed a receiver really bad. So I do think it's a good trade for them. But I also want to knock out another Steelers trade with my Packers. They also got Preston Smith, 32-year-old vet from the Packers. This year we really saw the decline of Preston Smith in Green Bay, as he just hasn't really been in the rotation as much, and his name hasn't really been called. And I saw that he only played about 5 snaps last week, if I'm not mistaken. Last week, I could be wrong about that, but
Yeah,
the Packers are starting to develop their young guys like Lucas Van Ness, as a Mosby, that he's a draft pick, that second-year guy I haven't heard of really, but
Gary.
Gary, I mean, yeah, they're starting to put in these young guys in the D line, which I like. And, it's just time. Preston Smith, I mean, he had a great time in Green Bay. But I do like the trade. I mean, like I said, they're trying to develop these young guys and, get some pieces that can really be effective. So the Steelers, I do like the trade for them too, as they are beefing up that D line too.
Yeah.
So I think it works out for both sides.
Yeah, and speaking on the Packers, I think they're a lot like how we mentioned with the Denver Broncos, how they're starting to build that young core. Obviously, you have a really young wide receiver core. You have a kind of younger side quarterback, obviously starting his second season, but I think he's in his 4th year. I think he was under Aaron Rodgers for 2 years. I could be wrong on that, but kind of building on that young core and getting a 2025 7th round pick. So obviously, I don't know if a 7th round pick has really amounted to much ever in NFL history, but I think this is a good move for both teams, like you said.
Yeah.
And then the next one is the Ravens getting Tre'Davious White in a 7th round pick in 2027, and the Rams getting a 2026 7th round pick. This is huge for the Baltimore Ravens. We've been talking about, I think we only mentioned it once, where the Ravens defense has not been looking like the Ravens defense that we're used to, dropping easy interceptions and just not getting to the ball really well. Tre'Davious White is a good pickup for them. Obviously, he was kind of like a rotation, maybe a CB2, CB3. But I think he could move into that CB1 position on this Ravens defense. But I like this trade for the Ravens. Rams, I don't really like it that much for them. I think you're giving up a key piece when you're finally starting to win games again. I think they're just giving up a key piece and then only getting, like I said, a 7th round draft pick out of it. So,
I mean, I kind of disagree. I think that Tre'Davious White is kind of washed. I'm not gonna lie. He's not the same player as he was in Buffalo. He did one out of LA at the Rams. But for the Ravens, you're kind of just hoping that he's like a Clowney that you brought in midseason, like he's a rental piece, as you said, a rotation guy, or he may be able to start. We'll see how that defense works, because I know they got Humphrey back there. They got Hamilton. Well, he's a safety, but they have pieces back there that I know that are pretty decent. But we'll see if Tre'Davious White might be able to beat them out. If not, rotation guy. But we'll see where they play him. But yeah, I mean, for the Rams, I don't mind it. I think that they're building this young secondary, as they had a huge win last week over the Seahawks. So they are playing some good ball at the moment. So I don't really think this affects them to the level of degree that you think it will. But I think it's a good trade. I don't mind it. It is what it is. We'll see what he does in Baltimore.
Yeah, and then the final trade that happened was the San Francisco 49ers getting Khalil Davis and the Texans getting a 2026 seventh round pick. A lot of 2026 seventh round picks that went. I like this for the 49ers. They needed to beef up that D line. Obviously, giving up a lot of rushing yards over the span of the season. So building on that D line is huge for the 49ers, especially when it comes down to the later half of their schedule when they face teams like Detroit, they verse LA again, Seattle again, I believe. I don't know if they play Arizona again. But they're going to be versing teams that have a decent to really good run game. So them getting D lineman in the trade deadline is huge, as they haven't been able to really stop the run pretty much all year, as I said.
Yeah, I think well, this is just another rotation piece for the Niners. I don't mind it. It is like, a rotation piece. He may be effective as in the last 5 games he's had 1 sack, so he's not entirely just, effective or uh productive, but we'll see what he can do. Maybe he's a good rotation piece. We'll see what he does on the 49ers.
Yeah. And then kind of getting off of the trade deadline, we're going to be talking about some key matchups that happened this past week. There were a lot of division games that happened. So let's talk about Lions versus Packers. Obviously, Lions taking the win, 24-14. If you guys saw the live stream, Mike was not too happy.
Excuse me. Yeah, one of us had fun, one of us did not. I could go on to a whole spiel, but I'm not. It's just the Packers will have one of those games that nothing goes right for them, and literally nothing goes right for them. Yeah, it just wasn't a clean game. It seemed like the Packers were the team who's never played outdoors before, and that was the narrative coming in for the Lions is, they haven't played outside, the weather will affect them, and it looked like the Packers. I don't know. They couldn't catch the ball. Jordan Love's once again throwing a terrible pick, which, I don't understand. Just throw the ball away there. But it's mistakes that cannot happen against in a game like this. They got absolutely dominated. I mean, stats wise, the Packers did have a lot more yards, but at the end of the day, the Lions capitalized on every single mistake the Packers gave them. So they got destroyed. I cannot lie. The Packers have to regain from this. They're on a bye week. Hopefully they can get healthy with Jair Alexander, Jordan Love, especially. He hobbled after going into halftime, which wasn't good, and the Packers kept playing him. So you got to wonder what's going on there. But yeah, I mean, just Nick had fun. I didn't. It was a terrible game for the Packers. Not what I expected. But the Packers will have a game like that or two every single year that you just scratch your head and go, did this team even show up today? Did they know they had a game today? I don't know. But take it away, Nick.
Yeah, Jared Goff started off 11 for 11 in passing. And I mean, Montgomery was breaking tackles left and right.
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs had a big game. But kind of what I want to talk about is probably the biggest controversy that happened in the NFL this past week, the ejection of Brian Branch on a hit that happened right before halftime, I want to say. I think it was like midway through the second quarter. A helmet-to-helmet contact, and him being pretty much delayed ejected and then giving another personal foul to him. Obviously, he did flip off the Packers fans and call the refs a word that I'm not going to repeat on this podcast. But can we talk about, obviously, I think both of us agree Brian Branch did not deserve to be ejected from the game.
I actually disagree. I rewatched the video. I've gotten some clarification as to, what actually happened and well, not what happened, but like the timing of the hit. And I disagree. I think that it was unnecessary and it was a helmet to helmet, leading with the helmet. You can't do that nowadays. And maybe it would I say, I don't know in real time, what it looked like, but at least on video and at least on in the game, it looked pretty bad. So, I guess for that matter, you just leave it up to the refs, and that's the decision they make, you know?
Now, mind you, the refs did not eject him. It was a
Yeah,
call from
yeah.
New York.
Right, right.
Um, and I guess we did put out a poll. So far, the vote is heavily no that he did not deserve to be ejected. I don't know if that's all Lions fans or just a wide margin of people. Um, but I think majority of the NFL agrees that he does not deserve to be ejected, especially because of a hit that happened in the next game that we're going to talk about, New Orleans versus Carolina, with the hit on Chris Olave. Now, Carolina wins by 1. New Orleans shit the bed, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, but the hit on Chris Olave looked a lot more dirty, even in slow motion. Um, the defender was looking directly at Chris Olave, saw the ball was already way past him. And then as Chris Olave landed, it was like 2 seconds later, then the defender goes helmet to helmet, and there was a flag, 15-yard
Oh,
penalty,
yeah.
no ejection.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the difference between the 2 hits were the defender on the Carolina Panthers, yes, he did hit him up in, like, the chest area, neck area. However, the Brian Branch was straight helmet to helmet. There was no it wasn't necessarily the Panthers safety leading with his helmet. He did hit him with his shoulder. It was a bad hit. Just, the ball was obviously not in play. But the Brian Branch, it was helmet to helmet. That's just the big difference is helmet to helmet. So,
Okay, then we could talk about this next game, Seattle versus LA Rams. The hit on Hamilton. Bang bang play, helmet to helmet, same timing as Brian Branch's hit. Flags were thrown, and then they were proceeded to be picked up. No penalty was called.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's just the ref's call. It's New York's call. I mean, if they think it's dirty, it's dirty. But look, Brian Branch being ejected did not change the outcome of the game.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it is what it is. And sometimes you'll get ejected, sometimes you won't. It happens. It's part of the NFL. It's part of the game. It's just up to the officials in New York, I guess. So
Let,
it's
let me
not the end of the. It's sometimes these refs and these, New York has to look out for these players and look at the severity of the hits and realize, is this, a threat to this player? But for that case, they thought Brian Branch's hit was dirty enough. That's why he got ejected.
I will say this. I think it also plays a factor that he is kind of a repeat offender. I mean, he got
Yeah.
uh, a fine and was suspended at the Arizona game. He had a hit last year in the preseason. So I think that plays a role in it as well. But I think personally, you got to let these guys play football. If you think it's dirty enough, let them play out the game. If it happens again, yeah, throw them out. But
I
like
mean,
I would say let them play, right? And then if you see as fit as it was a dirty hit, suspend them for the next game.
Bill Melton could have gotten knocked out. I don't know how he didn't, to be honest. It
But
just,
I will also say there has not been any announcement on what the repercussions of Brian Branch are. He's still in the depth chart to play against
yeah,
Houston, and he has not received the fine. So
yeah,
who
no,
who knows what's going to happen with him? I think it's obviously up to the refs' discretion, and the refs did not see fit as him being ejected until they got the call from New York. Personally, I think it was a little late to be able to do it. Obviously, yes, it was a penalty. There was no question about it. Helmet to helmet contact. Obviously, that is unnecessary roughness, right? And then we saw later what happened with the second penalty. In the live stream, we were both like, he got a second penalty? Like, he's already ejected. How is he getting another penalty?
Yeah.
But then we saw replays of, I mean, my screensaver on my phone is Brian Branch flipping off Green Bay Packers fans. So, and I tweeted out saying free BB, Brian Branch. So we'll have to see what comes of this. Obviously, targeting is a college rule. It's not in the NFL. Helmet to helmet is kind of a concern in the NFL, but I feel like if there are similar plays or plays that look a lot worse, they should be called the same as a play like Brian Branch. Yes, I mean, Pat McAfee said it could be because it was a 4:25 game and these other games were 1 o'clock games, and the NFL wasn't paying too much attention to the 1 o'clock games, and they were really paying attention to the 4:25 game. It could be Pat McAfee just spitting words. But if that seems to be the narrative that everyone is pushing, that because it was a 4:25 game, that's why Brian Branch was ejected, because the NFL was paying more attention to that game. If that is true, if the NFL is actually paying more attention to that game, then shame on the NFL. I'll say that. I'll leave it on that note.
Yeah, no, that's a crazy take. I don't think that's true, but shifting away from that, I do want to talk about an NFC North game that I think is pretty funny, pretty hilarious. We got the classic Chicago Bears. I mean, look,
The
I got
Bears.
people texting me about, oh, the Packers are getting their ass kicked. Great. I can admit that to a Super Bowl contending team. The Bears got their ass kicked by a team that's average. I mean, look, they put up 9 points, and
They didn't even
it
score
wasn't
a
even close.
touchdown.
It wasn't even close. I love the fact that going into halftime, this has never been done before. A 53-yard run from what's his name? I can't remember the name. Imari Demercado. I'm gonna totally butcher that name. I haven't heard that name in ages. Like a second or third string running back for the Cardinals. He's been around the league for a little bit, but he runs for 53 yards untouched. It was just the most funniest thing ever. I could not believe it. So this really speaks volume as to where the team is at. The defense got totally butchered. They couldn't stop the run. No Montez Sweat. Does this raise concerns? Like, how hot is Matt Eberflus' seat, Nick? Like, tell me, man.
Last week I said it was boiling. I think it's worse.
I mean,
I think they're starting to reach the hand into the boiling pot, and they're about to burn their hand off. I mean, I'm seeing memes of different things about Matt Eberflus. It is ridiculous what is happening in Chicago. I mean, you were competing in the NFC North. Yes, the Chicago Bears were competing in the NFC. And then all of a sudden, it's just Matt Eberflus doing Matt Eberflus things and just bringing the Bears season to complete ruin. He needs to be gone. The offensive coordinator needs to be gone. They need to do something in that camp if they ever want to compete in the NFC North like they did in the early 2000s.
yeah, no, it's kind of funny because they play the Packers coming out of our bye week in 2 weeks. Can the Packers get Matt Eberflus fired?
The Packers are about to put 60 on their head.
I hope so, man. I hope so. That would be so funny.
I think, personally, I'm a Lions fan. I can't stand the Packers, right? But you want to know what common ground we can have? We both hate the Bears.
Yes, yes,
So
and we
I,
love
I
seeing their
think
failure.
I think we'll talk about this next week. But the Packers coming out of that bye week, potentially having Jair Alexander back, Josh Jacobs has time to heal up a little bit more, Jordan
Yeah,
Love. I think we could see a coach firing after the Packers Bears game.
yeah,
Kind of like how we saw a coach firing after the Saints Panthers game, uh, with the Saints getting rid of several coaches on their staff. I will say Matt Eberflus's seat is hot. Mike McCarthy's seat is hot. With them losing to the Atlanta Falcons pretty convincingly this past week. So there are a lot of coaches that have the hot seat right now. And I did see something. I know you mentioned something to me last week about potential Ben Johnson going to the Bears. I don't see that happening, especially if Matt Eberflus gets fired during the regular season. I don't see Ben Johnson just jumping ship at that time.
yeah, no,
Um, and I will say this: if Ben Johnson goes to the Chicago Bears, good, another kneecap to bite.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's
So
just really funny. It was a good week of football. I mean, for you at least, but at least the Packers can go into the bye week and heal up, and we'll see what the Chicago Bears do next week.
we'll have to see kind of what happens going into obviously after the bye week.
Yeah,
But that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to us on Spotify, Amazon Music. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Twitter at
yeah,
Gridiron Pod NFL. And yeah, obviously our first live stream was this past week. I think it was a pretty good success, barring
yeah,
some technical
and
difficulties that we had on each side. So
and hey, I just wanna shout out. I see all the views out there in the comments. We appreciate you guys, but hey, yeah, do subscribe. A lot of you guys are viewing but not subscribing. That lets us know that we can continue doing what we do because we know we love to see the progress and the growth of the Gridiron podcast. And Nick and I both enjoy doing this, and we love seeing you guys, viewing our podcast and commenting down below. So it means a lot to both of us. So please
and
do.
and we do respond to all comments. So if you guys have a
Yeah,
disagreeing opinion to us, let us know in the comments, and we can kind of discuss it in the comments. So yeah, just keep letting us know that if you guys enjoy the content, or if you guys want us to have like a different format of the podcast, let us know.
yeah.
We're always open to constructive criticism and everything like that. So, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Thursday for another episode of the Gridiron Podcast. And yeah, see you guys next week.